Gratitude. Gratitude is something that all of us could expand on a little bit more. And today I have a deep conversation with Max Marine. Max Marine is a very unique individual, and he's someone who's been on a wild journey from being a venture capitalist. He is a chartered financial analyst. He has a master's of science in finance, and he worked in Israel for many years, where he was working at a venture capital firm and helping individuals and analyzing their companies and teaching them how to get investments from venture capitalist funds. And through that journey, he found God. He then continued on to finding his way to Burning Man at some point. At Burning Man, he found that he was bringing a gratitude journal around, and he would share this gratitude journal with others. And through this experience and through this practice of learning about other people's gratitudes, he found his calling in life, which was to create a community called Grateful Giraffes. Grateful Giraffes is an amazing community of individuals who are centered on well-being, on their health, on spirituality, on helping other individuals with their mental health. And it is this amazing community of 800 individuals at this moment that is continuing to grow regularly, where they have events where they share gratitude practices, where they help each other grow, and where they share their knowledge to help better the world. If you're interested in hearing how you could better your life through gratitude, and you want to hear the amazing journey and wild journey of Max Marine, then go ahead and chime on in. This podcast is something that I had a great time listening to his story, and something that I know I'm going to even join the Grateful Giraffes so that I can help him in his journey in spreading gratitude to the world. Also, it would be amazing if you enjoy this podcast and you love listening to the things that we're sharing, then please do us a favor and like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast with those that you know would enjoy the messages that are being shared here. We're here to share knowledge and to share information in the best way we can. And I really hope that you guys love and resonate with these messages. And if you have any great ideas for podcast guests, or if you have any great ideas for podcasts and topics that we should cover, please reach out. I'm willing to talk with anybody that has an amazing story and wants to share their knowledge and share their gifts with the world. Hello, everybody, and welcome on back. I'm very excited. Today, I have a new friend with an amazing t-shirt who loves giraffes, and he is someone who got introduced to me by my friend, Katie Cheadle. And I'm really excited today to be able to talk to Max Marin, and to introduce him to everybody here. So first of all, Max, thanks a lot for being here today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to tell everybody a little bit about Max, for those of you that don't know him. Max Marine is a CEO and co-founder of Grateful Labs, the venture studio behind Grateful Giraffes, a community-owned wellness brand dedicated to human flourishing. Prior to Grateful Labs, Max was a VC based in Tel Aviv for 7 years, investing in early-stage tech companies. Max holds a CFA charter, which it means Chartered Financial Analyst.
You got it.
And has his MS in Investment Management, which is a Master's of Science in Investment Management. And he now resides in Los Angeles in a beautiful place, which I saw on his Instagram, which was amazing, and is dedicated to creating a more grateful world. So Max, thanks for being here today. Where would you like to start? Do you want to tell us about how you ended up getting to giraffes, or do you want to start with giraffes?
No, I think it's important to give some context.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to share a little bit of how the giraffes came. Well, the giraffes have been around much longer than humans, but how the Grateful Giraffes came to be. Yeah, so just a few words about my personal background. So I grew up in the States, in Philadelphia. I went to school for finance at Temple University. And my sophomore year of college, two very special things happened to me. The first, I discovered gratitude journaling.
Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar with the practice of writing a few things you're grateful for each day.
Do you know Katie's friend, Morgan Scheidler?
Not personally.
Okay, we can talk about that later. Sorry for the side note. But you got into
gratitude journaling.
Gratitude journaling.
And it was really, the first time in my life I intentionally took time to reflect on the blessings of life. And I don't know, it was kind of mind-blowing for me.
Yeah.
Because I had just taken everything for granted until that point. And slowly but surely, every day you write a few more things, you start to expand your awareness of just how lucky you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who came up with this stat, but you can check it online. Our chances of being alive are 1 in 400 trillion, something of that magnitude, But often we take that existence for granted, and we just can only seem to focus on what we don't have, right? And I think I suffered from that, growing up. But then this gratitude journaling practice, it just kind of was like rewiring my brain.
Yeah.
So this is where the whole gratitude story began, my sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
The second thing that happened that was really powerful was my first trip to Israel. So I was raised Jewish, but not very religious. Wasn't really connected to the religious aspects or the commandments, if you will. In fact, I was self-identified as an atheist. And then I went to Israel. They took us to Jerusalem, went to the Western Wall. It's a very holy site. And you're able to write a letter to God. You know, you have a little piece of paper, you put it on the wall. Hopefully God will answer your prayers.
Yeah.
So I was in my rebellious atheist phase. I wrote, "Dear God, I don't believe in you. Love Max." Put it in the wall. And I just started crying, like sobbing. It was crazy. I've never cried like that in my life. I mean, I had tantrums, but this is a different level of tears. And I just felt this like crazy energy take over my body and just like move me. And then I kind of backed away. I don't know if you've been to Jerusalem and been to this holy site.
Actually, my aunt lives in the city of Jerusalem. So I've been to Jerusalem many times. My dad grew up in the city of Jerusalem, and so I have family there.
Wow.
And so I've been back for weddings many times and to visit family. So I'm very familiar with the Wailing Wall, and I've written my notes and I put them in there too. And I've visited all the holy spots. You know, I've been to Dome of the Rock. I've been to the Holy Sepulchre. Jerusalem's a very special place, and you can definitely feel it down to the core. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's cool. I didn't know that. It's cool that you can, you know.
Yeah, I can relate. So because when you said you put that letter in there and you wrote, I don't believe in God. I just like imagine all the letters that are in there.
Right.
People put prayers, they put wishes, you know, and they're trying to send a message, try to get some help. They're praying to God to get assistance for whatever they need in their life to send all their wishes to. So to put, I don't believe in God in this wall is like the antithesis of what this wall is designed for people's prayers and desires to be blessed up to God so that they can get them to come true.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, something came true in that moment, which was a feeling that I never felt before. And you could say that was my first kind of direct experience of God. Mm-hmm. And then a few years later in Los Angeles, I had I would say my second spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. I was volunteering for a week in schools in LA. Through an organization called Hillel. They have different like programs on different campuses and stuff. And Friday nights during this, you know, Shabbat service, basically people coming together and singing prayers, I walked over to the bookshelf. I kind of just started looking at different books in the room. And one book in particular was called Jewish Meditation, caught my eye. I started reading some of the words, and I just felt like this book was written for me. One of those crazy feelings where like, you've kind of been thinking a lot of the things, then you read the author's writing, you're like, it was written for me, so I was feeling that. And one of the practices is a visualization technique, right? So like, you close your eyes and you try to picture an image in your mind for 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long you can. And so the next day I pictured the sun. That was my object of visualization for an hour straight. It was the first time I'd ever meditated in my life, and I just focused sun, sun, sun in my mind's eye.
Why on the sun?
I guess because I was outside and I felt like it was a powerful symbol. Yeah. It was kind of random. I just kind of chose it in the moment. Yeah. I felt like if I can feel the heat of the sun at all moments, it can bring me back into the meditation. Yeah. Because oftentimes you try to meditate and then you get pulled into
a
completely different world. So
And so did the meditation that was like recommended, or did the book suggest that
it did not suggest sun. It just said visualization. I chose the sun.
Okay.
And towards the end of the meditation, I felt my body disappear. It's a very like surreal experience. And I felt it just explode into lights. I at first I saw this black darkness and then just like this tiny little light, and then it just exploded, and so did I. And I just thought to myself, when I came back down, I started crying. It was like another just visceral experience that made me feel like connected to a higher power. Yeah. And the analogy that I like to use is that God is like love. When you grow up and you haven't been in love, you could watch the movies, or you could read the poems, you could listen to the music, but you have no idea until you fall in love what all this love stuff is about. Similarly, you might go to synagogue or church or a mosque and do all the prayers and do all the rituals and do everything, but you may never feel God. So you just feel like you're repeating the motions. It doesn't connect. I was fortunate on these two occasions to actually feel this higher consciousness in my body, and that changed my life. It just put me on a spiritual path that I'm still on to this day. And that experience actually led me to volunteer in Israel for a year after college. And then after getting my master's in investment management, to move back there. and combine my passion for finance and technology with the startup nation, as they call it, because there's tons of startups being founded all the time in this small little country. So that was how I spent my 20s into 30s. And it was a really powerful experience. And I know we're going to go into it a little bit more because you're curious about the whole VC world. But what happened in parallel was I discovered in Israel, it's called Midburn, but in the States, it's called Burning Man, which I understand you've also had the fortune of attending.
Yeah.
And as I got, kind of pulled into this alternative reality, which is basically what it is, you build a city in the desert for a week and then you tear it down. I got also really inspired by the culture.
Yeah.
And one of the principles of Burning Man is gifting, meaning there's no money at Burning Man. The whole entire city is just based on people giving to one another and being self-reliant, but everyone's encouraged to give a gift and share this abundance, and it creates a frequency unlike anything I've ever felt at any other festival. Even though Burning Man is not a festival, it has similarities. And my gift to the playa was to bring a blank gratitude journal. This is coming full circle to gratitude, and basically ask people to write a page as a way to just help them remember, because a lot of times all it takes is one person to say, hey, what are you grateful for? And we get out of whatever negative spiral or whatever distraction or whatever judgment we're in. We take a breath. Okay, there's a lot to be grateful for. Yeah. So I felt like I was playing that role. And as the years went on, I just became more and more obsessed with this social experience of helping people tap in to this higher state, the state of gratitude. And every year after I would fill up this journal, I would then read the entire journal at the final sunrise, sometimes not so sober, other times very sober.
Do people write an entire page, or they just write one word?
Page.
An entire page of what they're grateful for?
Exactly.
Or that's just the prompt? What are you grateful for?
So it's interesting, until about 2 years ago, it was just write something, like write a page of gratitude.
Yeah.
But I had this download 2 years ago. It'd be more powerful if people were to write a gratitude letter to themselves.
Okay.
So that changed about 2 years ago. And now when I do these practices, that's like the prompt.
Got it. What does it mean to write a gratitude letter to yourself? Like, what are you grateful for about yourself?
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Powerful stuff.
Now you're asking for a lot. I can think of about 100 things I'm grateful for and other things in my life, but for myself would be a much more difficult prompt.
Exactly. And that's the thing, our cup is so often empty and we're trying to fill others' cups.
Yeah.
It's so hard to just take that moment for yourself. And so that was another evolution of this practice. Instead of just getting people to write things they're grateful for, no, what are you grateful for about yourself?
Yeah.
And those letters that people would write, a whole nother level of emotion, inspiration.
Yeah.
And every time I would read this journal, I would cry and just feel this power, of like so much gratitude in one little notebook that I had collected, throughout these experiences. So
what do you do with the notebooks?
They're just souvenirs, A few years I photographed each page and uploaded it.
Yeah, I was like, these are power objects.
Instagram?
Yeah, these are very beautiful, just like documents that you have that people share their stories. It's an amazing practice. That's really cool. Yeah. How long do you give people a specific amount of time to fill it out?
I think it depends on
the situation.
Where, when.
Yeah, where,
exactly.
when at Burning Man.
I had this one crazy story where the final sunrise of Burning Man 2 years ago, I was biking aimlessly at like 4:30 a.m. I found myself at this crazy tuning fork. I don't know if you remember it or if you were there 2 years ago. It's like big fork in the middle of the playa. Whatever. It's like a fork in the road.
Okay.
So I bike over there. I'm wearing a giraffe onesie. I'd already started the giraffes. We'll get to that Genesis story. But this girl comes up to me. She's like, come party with us. The best party at Burning Man. I'm like half asleep. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
She's like, no, this is the best party. I'm like, what makes this the best party? She says, this is Elon Musk's party. I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? What do you mean Elon Musk's party? I look over, Elon Musk is sitting there on an art car just chilling. And there's like 60 people at the fork.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So I'm just like doing my gratitude thing, getting people to write in it. Obviously, I want to go up to Elon and get him to write in it. I have like 3 pages left. I start talking to this one guy. I'm like, hey, do you want to write something in this gratitude journal? Like something you're grateful for about yourself? He's like, sure. I'm like, what's your name? He says, Kimball. So it's Elon Musk's brother, Kimball Musk. So he goes off into the desert. He writes the note. He comes back. I'm like, it would be so amazing. First of all, he was like, that was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
It just shows it's universal medicine.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how even more so for the elites. They're so like, I don't know. I feel like it's hard actually being like at the top for a lot of people.
I mean, a couple of things with that, right? One is one of my favorite sayings is what you think about, you bring about. You know, as you're talking about being at a tuning fork, as human beings, we're human tuning forks, right? So what you're thinking about and what you're grateful for, you bring into your universe. And when you deal with like human psychology, typically the more successful somebody is, it means the less many times, not all times, it usually means that people find less value in themselves, that they're not good enough, that no matter what they do, they need more, and they're always going to need more to show off to others because that's how they validate themselves, because they think so little of themselves due to childhood trauma or just things when they were kids that they were told you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not safe, right? And so they're just continuously trying to build so that they can fight those dialogues that they're telling them in their head. So I agree with what you just said.
So you think Elon was traumatized pretty badly?
It's usually, in my experience, one or the other. Either super happy childhood, right? Where they're just like, they were told they could do anything, they could believe anything. Their minds were open and expanded. They were taught at a young age. They were never told no. And so they were allowed to do what they wanted. Or it's the other. You are not good enough. No matter what you do, it's not perfect. You're a piece of shit. You're a loser. You're never going to be the best. And so it's like the opposite fuel. So it's either a fuel of love, which is the best, or it's a fuel of fear and depression, and it's just like, I'm trying to beat this, and many times many people don't get past that, and so I feel like it's typically one or the other. So I don't know with Elon. I don't know him personally, so I couldn't comment.
No, I'm that was in jest, but he's probably one of the most successful people on the planet, if not the. So he's something going for him.
I'd be interested to know what his childhood was like to understand that. I think I've watched a little bit about it. It sounded like he might have been the love journey more so than the aggressive one.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I asked Kimball if he can introduce me to Elon.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're on your own. And I was like, damn.
You're on your own from his own brother?
I mean, I don't know how close they are, or if they have like a strained relationship, but he was just like, sorry, kid. Like, you're on your own. So I took a lap. The sun's starting to rise. I see Jason Calacanis standing there, founder of the All In podcast, amongst many other things. I go up to him and his girlfriend. They both, signed the gratitude notebook. And then Elon's like right there, right in my vision. And as I say Elon, the girl who first invited me into the party comes out of nowhere, grabs my arm, walks me out. She's like, Elon's not talking to people who aren't part of his like intimate crew right now. Let's go watch the sunrise. Anyway, so that was just a almost, mystical experience. It was still very mystical to end up with the gratitude journal dressed as a giraffe, one moment away from, just getting Elon to write in it. But his brother wrote in it, Jason wrote in it. It was successful. Yeah. Point being,
boo on that girl for not letting you shoot your shot.
Well, she actually got me in to the party, fair. So I'll give her a lot of credit for that. But point being, I've been kind of just. At first, it was just like a hobby. How do I spread gratitude?
Yeah.
And about 2.5 years ago, it really started to blossom into this dharma. This is my mission.
Yeah.
How do I scale gratitude?
Yeah.
You're familiar with the negativity bias or that term?
I'm not.
Where just our brains are wired to notice negative more than positive. Even in relationships, they say you need to say 5 to 10 positive things for every negative thing if you want a healthy dynamic. Because our systems are built to survive and reproduce, not be happy, not be calm, Calm did not lead to reproduction in many cases. Being on guard of potential threats and making sure that you protected your kin, and your family, and your genes, that's what allowed you to reproduce. So we're kind of living in that similar body, just in a very different era. And so 99 things could be going right and one thing could be going wrong. And that's what we're going to pay attention to. If we don't train our minds, that's how we're going to that's how this life's going to live out for us.
Yeah.
So this negativity bias affects us all. Did you want to add something or?
No, it's interesting. It's just making a lot of sense, right? Because if I understand the premise that we're all here and our basis of living is going to be to reproduce and to survive, right? So if those are the basis and that's what's like hardwired in our survival and it's like our basic instincts, then our brain is going to be consistently looking for the scares and the negative, and it's literally wants to find those things. And so we are pre-wired to be attracted to those types of circumstances. So it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And you can also look at the media and how it's changed with the ad-based business model Now it's all about what can grab the most attention
Yeah.
and keep it the longest. Well, that's why there's a lot more fear mongering and sensational, exaggerated headlines, because that's going to go deeper into our limbic system and get us way more activated than something good is happening. Okay, great. Nothing threatens me, so I don't really have to pay attention.
Yeah, but even on a psychological level, you're addicted to that adrenaline rush, right? A lot of people don't realize that they're addicted to their misery and their pain because it's literally a release of adrenaline, it's a release of chemicals. And so a lot of times it's more comfortable to stay in that state of inflammation. And when you're in a state of like flight or flight, then it's just that's something you're used to, and you'd rather be in that state than settling and relaxing because it's so foreign and it's so unknown to you. And so you're almost addicted to that trauma response and you want it over and over and over again.
It's a double whammy, basically.
Yeah. Joe Dispenza talks about that a lot. We're continuously searching for those same repeat emotions, those same repeat circumstances. And that's why a lot of people date the same people. They keep getting into the same, naughty situation because they just love it because psychologically they're addicted to it. Yeah.
Right. So yes, we're very much addicted to the news and the fear, and it's connected to this negativity bias where we're wired to pay attention to what's what could threaten our survival.
Yeah.
And, gratitude is something that can actually help us be resilient to that bias and even overwrite it, And so that's kind of one just foundational realization I had as I've gone into this mission of spreading gratitude. If more people were wiring their brains over and over again to pay more close attention to the good and less close attention, not to the serious things that need to be paid attention to, but the little things that can just, the next thing you know, for like the next few hours, you're in a bad mood and it can compound. So that gratitude really can help us overcome our negativity bias. There's also what's known as the entitlement bias, where we think we're entitled to things. And that also is a recipe for suffering because we're always expecting to be treated a certain way or delivered a certain value. And gratitude helps you just reframe life a little bit in a much more humble and a much more, I think humble is the right word, just like, how did we get to be alive? How do we end up in this body that's conscious?
It's a different wavelength, and it's a proper wavelength. I remember seeing a post by Gary Vee the other day where the post simply said, "No one owes you shit." And it's something so simple, and it's something that I remember knowing this in high school. I just felt so disappointed by so many friends because I was expecting so much from them. And I think a lot of people don't learn this till they get older.
Yeah.
But at a young age, I remember telling and giving my friends advice and being like, I set my expectations to 0. And when they're set at 0, if anyone does anything, I'm stoked. And so if you just set your expectations to 0, you'll be a significantly happier individual.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's hard to actually get to 0. And there might be some optimal points where some expectations are good.
Yeah.
Like having expectations of yourself might drive you to perform at a higher level. And it's okay to not meet them because then you're disappointed and then you improve. So yeah, I think it's nuanced expectations, which actually is the next bias I was going to talk about, because the more expectations you have, the more likely you are to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And if look, I think there's something here that's worth exploring, which is also toxic positivity and kind of using gratitude to bypass actual pain that, if not processed, can be stored in the body and just change your reactions in the future.
What do you mean by toxic positivity?
Like I just got fired. Oh, we just be grateful you're alive. No, like you should mourn the loss of getting, fired and
feel the emotion.
Yeah. So there's kind of been this overreach by the positive psychology crowd, which is like, you can kind of address any complaints or any pain by just be positive, be optimistic. But that can bypass the processing of the emotions, and then that can lead to inflammation or stress or trauma that gets stored and not released. So I think gratitude, there's another example. Let's say someone is depressed.
Yeah.
They feel like they're a burden on their family, their friends, whatever. Then you're like, hey, do a gratitude list every day.
Yeah.
Well, they actually might start to feel like even more of a burden when they start to become grateful for those in their life that have serve them. So it could actually be counterproductive to someone who's in a deep depression to try to get them to practice gratitude. So there's certain,
I've never heard that before.
yeah, it's cutting edge research. I'm citing one of our fellow giraffes, Dr. Lyubomirsky, I think you pronounce it, Sonja.
Yeah.
So she's been studying gratitude on a very deep level. There's
What do
different-
you do when somebody gets depressed from writing a gratitude list? I mean, that's like a deep level of. I mean, I understand it.
Right.
When you say it out loud, it makes complete sense. I just have never thought about it because I guess I've never been addressed with a situation. I'm just trying to understand from my own toolbox if I ever dealt with a friend where they were that dark in the spiral,
Right.
where literally them being grateful for the things that people have done for them made them more depressed about themselves. I just want to know how to help.
Yeah.
What do the doctors
Unfortunately,
suggest?
I'm not a,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not a
not that
therapist,
special,
so
yeah.
I can't give medical advice.
Yeah.
In those deeper depressive episodes, I mean, there's other, interventions, I would say, that probably have more efficacy, whether it's just having a talk therapist that helps that person like self-discover and come out of it. And I think a lot of it is, just having someone who will listen to you and validate how you feel. That's one way to help.
Yeah.
I think, the future of like neurotechnology is going to help a lot with brain depressive episodes. Like from what I understand, you're actually seeing less activity in certain parts of the brain in depressed people. Depressed, like there's depressed activity.
Yeah.
And there's ways that you can stimulate the brain through electromagnetics and whatnot that can actually lead to more activity, and it can just shift the mood, So I think that's going to become way more common. Right now it's called like TMS, transmagnetic cranial stimulation, but I think it's going to become a lot more precise, a lot more available, and that could help a lot of people who are not in balance.
Yeah. So in my field, I'm a personal injury attorney. For the first time in my life, I've been seeing this technology that's like from Johns Hopkins Hospital. Before you'd get brain MRIs, and the brain MRIs, it can be very difficult to even see if there's injuries. They're very like minute and not something that's shown in detail. Now, this one facility that I work with, shout out to Spectrum MRI, they've changed my life. They send us a report that shows the volumetric imbalances in the brain. So your brain, typically there's should be a balance on both sides because there's parts of your brains and different sections of your brain that need to be perfectly balanced. And so the volume in your brain, if you have a brain injury, it will show that it'll show you the exact percentage of volume on one side versus the other. And if there's about like an 11 to 15% change or anything higher, it signifies a brain injury. So what happens is when you find this brain injury or you find these details there, you can then do a level 2 neurotract fiber test, which will literally show the exact amount of fibers that have been sheared in that part of the brain. Wow. So before, when we were fighting insurance companies, we would have to guesstimate and be like, maybe there's an injury here. We'd look at DTI imaging, which is detailed, but not as detailed as this one. This is focused to that exact neurotract fiber.
Wow.
And so now we're able to be like, this is where the brain injury is here. So when it comes to technology, we're definitely at a point, I think, in history where we're going to understand the body in a way that we've never understood it before. Right. And as people like Robert Edward Grant, do you follow Robert Edward Grant? He's a polymath, but his whole principles is showing that everything in the universe is connected. How like philosophy ends up leading, I'm going to not get this quote proper, but it like everything leads together from like chemistry to physics to mathematics to psychology to sociology, and it all goes in a circle. And he tells that exact process properly, but he shows how all of these different languages are just leading you to this next language. And if you can follow the thread, everything is interconnected. Nothing is separate. And by now understanding all of these fields at like the level that we understand them now, we can now connect the dots between them. And we're going to start understanding the universe at a much accelerated rate in the near future here. Yeah. And of course, with AI, it's going to accelerate things even faster, maybe 100,000s of folds than we've ever been expanded before.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is an interesting moment. For sure, in our history, where 10 years from now, we could literally be in completely different planets.
Yeah.
Maybe not 10, but definitely in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
The whole economy, society, political system, I don't see any of it staying the same.
Yeah. So. I mean, our generation, how old are you?
I'm 33.
You're 33. Yeah, I'm 36. So, like, I mean, since we were kids, we went from seeing, like, no internet, right, to just technology advancing so much where we have our phones and we can do everything and literally that we could possibly think of with just our cell phones alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And soon it'll be our brains and there won't be a touch interface. We'll just think it.
Yeah.
We'll see it. It'll come through.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very different world, you know?
I'm excited. It's going to be really cool.
I'm excited too.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous, but I was listening to this podcast last night. David Shapiro, I think. He's an AI futurist. And he's like, you should start not you should, but he's like, I live my life as if I'm going to live till 500. Now, I think in our lifetime, we'll find a way that people could live in their young body in perpetuity, but the chances of you dying from an accident with an infinite lifespan is about 500 years in. So on average, people are going to die within 500 years, statistically speaking. So that's how I'm living my life.
Yeah.
And I have all this pressure for like, you know, getting married, having a family, seeing the world. Like every day I have some stress from my parents that just makes its way into my conscious mind. So that was kind of a nice, I don't know, like zoom out. I'm like, okay, if I live till 500, why do I have to
be in a rush of anything?
Yeah, be in a rush for anything, you know?
Yeah, but that's assuming you're going to live to be 500.
I know, but with, you know, artificial intelligence and biotechnology and everything that's happening, his advice was just don't die. Literally, that's all you need to do for the next 10 years. Don't die.
Yeah.
And the age of abundance is coming. So
there's
interesting.
What is it? There is a Netflix show. I forget the name of it, but essentially it shows into the future.
Yeah.
And they show how, I mean, our brain is just electrical signals, right? And it's a combination of things that are being shot between the neurons, and they just are able to transfer that consciousness from one body to the next.
Yeah, I remember it. I don't remember the name.
Yeah. And so, I mean, when I was watching it, I'm like, this is not far-fetched at all. Yeah. And if AI is something that can be able to help do something like this in the near future, why wouldn't it make sense that technically we could be immortal? And then I guess the only thing I would really have to change would be the laws around cloning and just being able to literally clone a younger version of yourself and just transferring your consciousness into yourself again. And then you just continue beating yourself over and over and over again. And then you literally have to choose when you want to die.
Right. Now, yeah, that's a good point because there's this difference between immortal and amortal, right?
Yeah.
Immortal is you can't be killed. Amortal is you won't die of natural causes, but you still are mortal, right?
Yeah, that actually makes sense. So we'd be more amortal.
Right, we'll be amortal, but if you
I've never heard the term amortal before. Yeah.
If you can clone yourself though,
yeah,
and that, you know, clone is in suspended animation, then you really could be immortal. Because even if this body dies, there's a snapshot that's being taken every second.
Yeah.
And then uploaded, downloaded, you're right back online.
Yeah, you're just right back onto it.
So it's a weird time to be.
Yeah, it's a weird time, and I wonder then at that point if it's
yeah.
that easy to transfer consciousness, how easy is to
it's
copy?
that easy. I think
no, of course it's not easy, but I'm just saying if it did get to that point where it would be easy, would it just be then people could just copy your consciousness, right, and move it somewhere else?
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of ethical conversations to be had.
Yeah. Who's the name of this podcaster?
David Shapiro, I think.
Got it. I want to check
Spotify,
it out. Yeah. I haven't watched a lot of AI podcasts. It's something I've not dived deep into in regards to the podcast realm.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people out there now talking about it, so I'm interested to hear what some of the
This
specialists
is now
are
an AI podcast.
yeah, right. We've shifted gears entirely. Yeah. And so we were talking about gratitude, and I want to go back to the venture capitalist stuff too, because I'm interested in hearing about it. So when you're working in VC, is it like, are you ahead of a fund? Are you just working at the venture capitalist company? Do you help choose the companies that you work with, or what exactly was your role within that?
Yeah. So, you know, the basic structure of a firm or a fund is you have partners who some of them are in charge of fundraising, some of them are in charge of investing, some of them are in charge of just portfolio support.
Yeah.
At the partner level, they own equity in the fund. And then you'll have kind of this support staff. So at the highest level, it could be a VP or a principal. Beneath that, it could be an associate or a senior associate. Beneath that, it would be an analyst and then an intern. You know, so that's kind of like the pecking order. Some similarities to investment banking. So when I came to Israel, I started as an analyst. I worked for, at the time, what was known as an equity crowdfunding platform. So instead of it just being this traditional fund, you have like deals you put on your platform, and then a crowd of accredited investors can invest smaller tickets. Okay. So it was like trying to democratize access to this asset class. It was called iAngels. Okay. I got trained there. And then I got kind of recruited by another fund that was a more traditional fund called Lool Ventures, LOOL.
Is this money all owned by like one family, or do people like invest in a VC? Like how do you become like, the guy at the top is obviously not the one that it's his money.
Or the girl.
Or the girl. I apologize. Sorry. The person at the top. That's what I meant.
Exactly.
The person at the top that's running the company, it's not their money. They're managing other people's money.
It all depends. It all depends. Because you have, people who have, billions of dollars that have their family office, and their venture capital, allocation is just coming from their personal wealth.
Got it.
And then there's the whole industry where everyone from pension funds and sovereign wealth funds and endowment funds and all these institutional investors who look at the world of investing and say, hey, I have 50% in equities, and I have 30% in bonds, and I have 10% in real estate, and I want to put 3% into venture capital.
Yeah.
So now I need to look for fund managers. And there's this whole dating process where all of the institutions are meeting with all the managers. They have their selection criteria. And if the managers get selected, to manage the capital allocation, then that goes into the fund.
Got it.
Many funds will have an anchor investor too, where larger institutions will take half the fund, and then the remaining half, maybe they'll go to some individuals in the family office world. Maybe they'll just go to some high net worths that don't have an established investment office but have capital.
Okay.
It's a mixture. The larger funds like Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia, they're all oversubscribed, meaning there's more institutions who want to invest in those funds than there is space in those funds. And it's very much a power law industry where the best VCs are just continuing to get the best deals, and then their brand keeps getting better and better. And it's very hard. It's a very difficult game to win if you're a new manager versus an established manager. You really need an angle.
And that's just because that people go to them because they have the most money or the best track record of success.
Everything. Network, advice.
Yeah.
They've seen so much that they can pass on that wisdom. And their brands are a signal, basically. If you get money from Sequoia or Andreessen, every next round investor will want to talk to you. If it's a no-name VC, you might have the money, but it doesn't mean much until you prove your thesis. And then, it's a very different story. But a lot of times these early stage companies are running at a loss.
Yeah.
It's all about the story. There's some numbers that you need to show at each subsequent stage, but having a very established VC in your, as your support, it adds a lot of value to how much more you can raise from other investors.
Amazing. So when somebody comes to a VC, what is some of the criteria that they need to fulfill before a VC will want to invest with them?
It's actually a funny question because...
I'm sure it's all over the place.
No, because I actually, I think second year at Lul, second year, I saw that Israeli entrepreneurs were having the same issues over and over again. And the process when you're evaluating a company is called due diligence. I know you know due diligence in the law field, but you basically need to analyze the team, the market, the product, the technology, the competitive landscape, the go-to-market, the business model, the exit strategy, the comparables, who's going to fund them. It's a lot of, stuff you need to analyze and then produce a report. And as an analyst and associates, my first few years in the industry, that was my entire life, just analyzing, right? You also are involved in proactive outreach to bring companies into your fund and get them engaged in the process. But because I saw so many entrepreneurs making the same mistakes, I said, I should write a book, how to raise your seed rounds. So I did. I wrote this 100-page book.
Okay.
Then I went to my partners and I said, I wrote a rap about the book and I performed it for them. And I said, I want to do a music video about raising your seed rounds. And they were like, okay, you have, a very small budget. So I went to my best friend, Julian, and we literally shot a music video of me rapping, So You Want to Raise Your Seed. And when we published it to the ecosystem, viral. Everybody saw it. It was nuts. And my rap career began at that moment, for real. How
long is this music video?
It's 2.5 minutes. We can put it on right now.
I was like, can you put on this video? I want to
see
it.
Go to YouTube.
If that's okay. I'm super interested.
You need to see it to understand.
This is great.
Because it actually answers all your questions as to what VCs are looking for, which is why I thought it was a very good use of time. Because entrepreneurs, they just go and watch a 2.5 minute video.
Yeah.
They get the info,
Yeah. And why did you want to rap it above all things?
When I was younger, I just got into freestyling for fun in high school. My freshman year of college at Temple University, I was studying for an exam.
Yeah.
And I decided instead of just, rote memorization, if I created a rap that was mnemonic, then I could remember on the fly the answers to the exam. So I took the test, and then I asked my teacher, can I perform the rap for the class?
Yeah.
It was like some Dr. Dre beat. She's like, yeah, sure. So I did it. The crowd went wild. And it was just literally marketing exam content in a rap. She came to me after. She's like, Max, I want you to do a music video about the Fox School of Business, Temple's business school.
Okay.
Instead of doing a final exam for my marketing class, just create a music video. So I recruited some people in the class.
Yeah.
We produced that video. And I've just enjoyed rapping extemporaneously. Yeah. But after writing this book, one day I was just sitting on the couch, listening to some beats, in the zone. Next thing I know, I wrote a full rap. It just came through,
Yeah.
I've written a number of raps since, and the Giraffe, sort of inspiration also came through me writing a rap, performing it to people, and them getting like activated by it. So when I have a good rap about something I care about, it usually leads to something else.
Yeah. And when you say mnemonics, you mean like where you take like the letters of something and then you're able to rap based off that? Or
Not
what do you
exactly.
mean by mnemonic?
It's just mnemonic device, I think, is the way to describe something where like one thing you remember leads you to like recall a fuller topic or sentence.
It leads you to the next strand, which pulls on the next strand.
I think so.
Okay. Oh man, how fun. I'm sitting there and I'm listening to it, thinking about my law firm, and I'm just thinking about a lot of the questions that you're asking. I'm like, if I ever asked for money or was looking for somebody to invest like that, at this point in the legal world, you can't have people that are not lawyers really invest in the law firm. You have to be an attorney to actually be a law firm owner. But they're trying to change that in the next couple of years.
Is that right?
And so if that does happen, there's just going to be a couple that are really going to be the big brand names because they're going to get VCs to come in. And so I was just trying to think like big picture, if that's something that is going to be the eventual, these are things that I'm going to need to think about at some point if I want to go to the next level. So that's a really good video. And if you understand business or if you run your own business, a lot of those terms you'll see, be like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. Oh, wait, I haven't thought about this yet. Oh, this is something that we really need to work on. So it is very deep, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was sick. So when it went viral, what does that mean to you, and what exactly did that do for your company?
Yeah, I think it really put us on the map as like a unconventional fund that is willing to do things outside the box.
Yeah.
So I think it was really a great uplift for the reputation. It also attracted more entrepreneurs that are also thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I don't know how political we want to get, probably not that much, but at the time, I was also feeling like Israel just has a lot of bad PR. It's definitely not a perfect country, but the perception is very, very negative. And I'm living there and I'm seeing all of these entrepreneurs dedicated to these amazing missions to create technology that helps with irrigation, helps with desalination, helps with healthcare, helps with biotechnology, helps with security. Like, so many things are coming out of this country that are really important for global well-being, but that's not the conversation, So I then had this download. I'm like, well, what if I created a rap video that basically showcased, all that's happening on the good in Israel, and that went viral. Then I would feel like even more, like I'm doing even more important work. So there's this organization called Startup Nation Central, a nonprofit connecting startups and corporates. I wrote another rap about Israel and Startup Nation. I went into the CMO's office. I pitched him by rapping. And he's like, I'm in. How do we produce this? I'm like, it'll cost $30,000. The first one cost like $2,000.
Yeah.
So I was, talking a big game. He's like, no problem.
Yeah.
So I suddenly had a $30,000 budget to produce video 2. So I produced video 2, Startup Nation. We can also watch it. We don't have to. And it also went viral, but again, didn't reach the real public. So it was like a very local thing. And they're still showing it. Whenever delegations come to Israel, they show them this video of me rapping about Israeli technology. Then I did a rap about the war in Turkey, whole other crazy story. And then as Corona hit, I did another rap about just what was happening with Corona. And then my rap career basically got sidelines. And, there just wasn't, I didn't have the same like inspiration as I did those 4 music videos.
Yeah.
But, I'm still a rapper. I still love to freestyle. I still love to write. And I have a rap about gratitude that I know when the time is right, it should have already happened, but when the time is right, there will be an epic music video, and it'll be another way in which we can make gratitude go viral. So
Awesome.
the rap story.
Yeah, but I mean, at some point, I'm sure you'll be just as inspired to write another rap. It's just a matter of time.
Exactly.
That's
I'll write
when-
a rap about personal injury, and you guys can license it.
Oh man, that's been something that I've talked to people about, is writing a jingle for my firm. I still haven't thought of anything proper like that, but we'll see. Maybe you'll be inspired
Maybe
by this.
after this conversation, you never know.
Yeah. So when you're working at the VC, did you ever work on any like major companies that we've heard of nowadays that have like really blown up?
You know, we were actually focused on a lot of frontier stuff. So even though we made investments in 2018, 19, 20, those are like the 3 years we did a lot of our deals, I wouldn't say any of them have gone like, you know, berserk. Actually, it's interesting. No, so we invested in a company called Flip. At the time, it was like a shopping social network, but now it's actually worth, like billions of dollars out here in Los Angeles, believe it or not. It's all about like social meets e-commerce. People can sell stuff. It's like a TikTok kind of competitor. The company, though, that I was most proud of, that I discovered and then kind of pushed through the process, is a company called BeeWise.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the bees and their role that they play in our ecosystem.
Extremely important. Not fully as detailed, but I understand that they're an integral part of like moving pollen from place to place and making sure that plants are getting germinated, and without them, we'd basically die.
Yeah, we would suffer tremendously. And then, there was kind of this increasingly worrisome trend, which I haven't really followed in the last couple of years, but at the time, colony collapse disorder, where you basically had like 40 to 50% of the bee population every cycle dying, like in the hives. And people were really trying to figure out like what is causing these collapses. And it was actually primarily a pest called the varroa mites that basically goes in, sucks out the bee's liver, and then the bees just can't operate anymore. And it's a very viral pest that was just, running rampant across bee hives all over America. Now, I don't know how much you know about where the beehives are, but they're spread out all over the U.S. In these wooden white boxes, a technology invented in 1850. And the beekeeper just has no way to inspect all these hives because they're all over the place. So they can only like sample, basically. They send their, beekeepers out into the field. They open up the hive. They look at the bees. And if they're healthy, they put them back. And if they're not, if they've come in enough time to apply medicines, they can save them. But there's no real-time visibility into how the bees are doing. So this was a huge opportunity as we saw it. If you could create a new beehive, that had real-time visibility, you empower the beekeepers to see their hives across their farms all over the country.
So you're saying, sorry, real quick. So you're saying we have beehives all over the United States just implanted to make sure that our pollination is proper? I had no idea that this was even a thing.
Yeah.
Is it like a certain amount of bees per capita is necessary? Like, I'm just interested in hearing a little bit more about that. I've never even heard of this.
So there's this whole commercial beekeeping industry, right? Initially, it was just like, everyone just relies on the natural bees. But as we scaled and created industry in cities, it's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
So the commercial beekeeping industry formed, and basically there are beekeeping companies that manage fleets, you could call them, of bees, millions and millions, if not billions of bees.
Awesome.
And based on the pollination needs of farms, these hives are then taken from, farms on this side of the country, shipped on 18-wheelers to this side of the country, and actually they're constantly being moved to pollinate crops, right? Wow. So in February, you have the almonds here in California.
They're moving the bees
and they ship
to go
the bees
do their
up
job.
to Washington for the apples and then the berries. And there's this whole like bee cycle of shipping boxes, but it's very problematic, especially if you're shipping bees from one farm that have the infection and you're putting them on a truck with bees from another farm that don't have the infection. Then you have 20% of the bees dying before they even reach the crops.
Wow.
So there's a big, big issue. And this Israeli company's idea was, let's create like a new beehive that we can monitor the bee health in real time, that can easily be transported. It's like built for 18-wheelers, and that uses computer vision and AI and robotics to actually do a lot of the treatments of the beehives in real time. You don't even need to send a beekeeper to the hive. Oh, they just keep
the pesticide or whatever.
Exactly.
For that
they can apply medicines automatically and just.
Oh, wow.
It's like a complete disruption, basically,
Yeah.
to the existing technology. From what I understood, there's more than 1,000 devices in California. They raised a bunch of money from Goldman Sachs.
Wow.
At a very, significant valuation.
Yeah.
And they're doing quite well as they address this, crisis in our food supply chain.
That's amazing. I mean, this is something that's going to change the planet.
Exactly.
And hopefully it wouldn't just stay here. Hopefully it's going to go to the rest of the world and be able to help everyone flourish.
Exactly. It's called Be Wise.
Be wise.
Yeah.
And everything that you learned was from obviously investing in this company, but is there like a documentary that you'd recommend to watch that maybe could tell about this? Or is this just from doing your own research?
Maybe they've produced a documentary.
Yeah,
and
I'll
you
look
can
them up.
It up their YouTube channel.
Okay, cool. And it's
nothing.
BEE wise?
Exactly.
Okay, BEE wise.
Like the
Okay,
bee.
awesome. And then these devices, just out of curiosity, how much does like one of these devices cost to create inside of like a truck?
I don't know what their current pricing model was, but basically it's not in a truck, right? It's like installed on the
It's
field.
installed, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can move it if you'd like to. At the time, they were charging a monthly subscription.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a lease.
Okay.
You're basically leasing the
device.
hardware and the
Yeah.
software, and then you get the service.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. What a cool project to be involved in. Awesome. And so you worked in venture capitalist, and then now you're here running Grateful Giraffes. It's
Yeah.
obviously a completely different universe.
180.
Yeah, 180.
180.
Yeah, 180. And so
160.
And 160. And you've obviously used everything you've learned from your days in the venture capitalist world, but what was the transition like, and why did you want to create Grateful Giraffes? What is Grateful Giraffes?
Yeah. All important questions.
Yeah.
How did I go from being a 31-year-old partner at a VC in Israel, where I had my whole life completely open and figured out, to going 160
Yeah.
or 180? This is the $64,000 question. So,
Why 64,000?
well, maybe it's $1 million. We'll see. We'll start small. Yeah. So there was a few threads that were colliding basically to enable this shift. One of them was a passion for Web3. In my early VC days,
What is Web3? Sorry.
it's basically an internet where the base infrastructure is built on blockchain technology as opposed to just traditional database technology. It gives a lot more power back to the user as opposed to the platform,
Okay.
which we can get into Web3. I'm happy to talk more about it. But, most people, what they know about Web3 is more the currencies around the
Yeah.
blockchains. They don't really know much about like applications beyond
Yeah.
currency, which we can talk about. But I discovered it in 20...
I would agree that my knowledge is about that too.
Yeah, so I'm pretty knowledgeable. I'm definitely not an expert, and definitely been
Yeah.
off the Web3 train for a couple of years, which I'll get into.
But a bird's eye view is always good, just to understand why you were interested in this and what it has to do with Grateful Giraffes.
No, for sure. I mean, so I discovered Bitcoin in 2012 on Reddit, and I tried to use it to buy drugs on the Silk Road, but the price went up, and so I thought the price of the drugs went up. So it went up from like 8 cents to 11 cents per Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not paying 35% more for drugs. So that was my first opportunity to buy Bitcoin. Then when I went into VC, we were looking at a couple deals, and it was like 2016 or something. I was like, Bitcoin's like $600. So I bought it, went up to 900. I sold it. Ether was at like $2, went up to like 8, bought it, sold it. But I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
That being said, I started to look deeper into the technology, and I understood that the existing monetary system is a little bit broken because governments, or at least non-governmental entities like the federal bank or central banks, control the supply of money.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's kind of this implicit taxation on its citizens where it can print more money into circulation, and the purchasing power goes down, of the average dollar. And if you look at the dollar, how it's trended, it's like lost almost all of its purchasing power. And there's other complicated factors, but I could understand philosophically that to not have any accountability on this existing government-controlled system means that governments can easily become corrupt. Central banks can easily become corrupt. There's no alternative, basically. So I saw, okay, wait, a peer-to-peer system where it's decentralized, it's through the internet, anyone on the planet can tap into it if they have an internet connection, just seemed to me like the future. This is where the world is headed. Obviously, there's a lot of cycles to this technology and goes up and it's dead and it's back and it's dead. But the second currency that I learned about was Ethereum, or Ether is the currency, Ethereum is the platform. And this was all about not just disrupting currency, but disrupting the App Store, right? Because right now, Apple and Google have like a duopoly on apps, and you pay them a lot of money to be featured in their store, like 30% of your revenue, basically. Yeah. And at any point, they can take you down, just arbitrarily. Gone. You know, you don't have any control over your data, over your user. You're, you're captive to these large monopolistic tech companies. So Ethereum was like, no, let's build a new app ecosystem where the App Store is open, basically open source. No one controls it. There's a crowd of people that maintain it and incentivized financially to maintain it. But then people can start building new internet applications where you're not being taxed 30% by Apple or Google. You might be taxed like 1% because it's this free open market. There's competition. Anyone can launch the app to this new app store. And that's what started getting my wheels turning on Web3. I was like, there does seem something broken and monopolistic and anti-competitive. And I don't want to get into all of the problems with, capitalist system and how corrupt it is and how special interests have created terrible regulations that, basically cement their competitive advantage at the expense of new startups who can't compete because they can't pay the, filing fees or whatever. There's so much there. We don't have to go into it now, but I just saw Web3 and like this blockchain-based system being a lot more fair and potentially a lot more transparent. Yeah. And at the same time, because it hasn't been properly regulated, it's been abused by many bad actors, just like the stock market was abused by many bad actors before there were regulations there. Yeah. So we have this kind of like ebb and flow. There's a new technology, bad actors come, they exploit it, then regulations come to prevent the consumer from being exploited, and then people have clarity so they can actually build, regulated products. So for whatever reason, the US has been very, very slow to regulate blockchain, and that lack of uncertainty has led to a lot more pain and suffering from the consumer than there ought to have been. Yeah. Okay, that's a whole other diatribe. Did you want to interject?
No, you're fine. I've been on the pain side of it. So
right. So many of us have,
Yeah, but I'm also interested in what you didn't want to talk about, which is what do you think about some of the things that do make it difficult to survive, like in our capitalist the world that we live in now? You said that there's problems that you specifically see, and these are being solved by the blockchain or by this Web3 platform.
Well, I mean, some of it is introducing new competition to existing systems that have corroded and are no longer functioning properly. And one such example is the Apple Store and the Google Store. They're, they have too much power, and they can knock out basically any app that threatens them,
Yeah, if you don't play by the rules, you can't play at all.
You're out. So I think that's,
And there's only two private companies that are writing these rules. And it's not even like it's the government, something that we voted for or something that we decided on. It's literally two private platforms that are like, you can exist only under our rules or you don't exist at all, right? Because there's no other place that I can even think of to get apps. When you said it, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. That's it. It's just Google or it's
duopoly.
Yeah, or it's Android.
Right, and there's another thing about the financial system where it's not an integrated global financial system. It's a very fragmented global financial system, and there's tons of rent seeking happening where, last I read, like financial services is a $35 trillion industry, and it's like a quarter of global GDP. That's probably changed in the last couple of years, but what is a financial service? It's basically someone in the middle, like charging you to do something that gets you to the next financial stage. Now, some financial services are important. They should be, costly. But like MoneyGram and Western Union, they might take 20% of an international transfer. Yeah. Whereas on the blockchain, it could be cents. Yeah. So basically it's introducing a lot of innovation into a financial system that was built before the internet that's trying to like cobble together solutions on the internet. And look, I'm not a prophet, okay? I don't know if blockchain ultimately will achieve its, potential, but it's creating a lot of competition that's forcing the existing financial system to upgrade. So at the worst, it's created that incentive for fintech and financial technology to get a lot more efficient and deliver a lot better service to the consumer or business. But it might also replace parts of the system with just this open global, protocol.
Yeah. I never even thought about it from the other point of view, where most people just are like, this is eventually going to replace it. But it might also just push it to get better. And it might also push it to improve upon the things that are a problem. See, I hear that our government has many problems and there are many issues with it.
Yeah.
But I also think that we need a government. And I think that it should just be run properly, and that it shouldn't be run by the corporations, and it should actually be run by individuals that have our best interests in mind and not just the bottom line dollar profit.
Yeah.
And so when you say that something like Bitcoin, people might get to the point where they're pushed so far that they end up going in that direction. But I think at some point, having someone run this country or just run where you live is something that is important. Otherwise, things will get forgotten about. Who's going to maintain the roads? Who's going to do the thing? All the in-between things that we might take for granted. I think it is important to have infrastructure for those purposes.
Yeah.
So I love what you said, and the fact that it's just going to push them to improve, because at the end of the day, all governments are run by money, and their incentive is to make more money. And it's how can we have more power through more money and doing it this way. So when they see that money leaving and they see it going to something that they have no control over, something that they cannot do anything about, I'm sure that it will incentivize them. Well, if we don't do better, we're going to have a problem here. And so it's a positive spin on a negative outlook, if that makes sense. And so I appreciate that reflection. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so we got a little sidelined on the Web3 talk, which I could go on for hours and hours. But the point that I was trying to make is that I was deep into this world going into 2020, 2021. And that's when we had, a huge explosion, basically, of all financial assets because of all of the COVID stimulus. So everything was going up to the right. And I was tracking all these trends, Obviously, Bitcoin was going up, but there was this whole thing about decentralized finance and GameFi, and then there was this NFT, boom. I don't know if you recall that whole period.
I remember.
So I was paying attention to the NFTs, and I saw these Bored Apes and their yacht club, and just how it was blowing up, and I was like, this is bullshit. It's not worth anything.
I felt the same exact way.
Right.
Then this is like a cartoon drawn on a computer. It's not a real piece of art.
Right.
But of course, there's arguments for both sides, and I'm not discrediting what one person's perspective of art is, but to spend millions of dollars on a gift to me is absolute insanity. And I just couldn't comprehend it personally.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I was with you there, and I was just kind of mesmerized. Then you had, two things happening. First, there were all of these, let's call them copycats, NFT projects, where you had the lazy lions, the pudgy penguins, the cool cats. Yeah. You had all these new communities basically springing up. They would have a Discord, they would have a Twitter, and they would sell out these art drops, these mints, NFT mints. The second thing that I saw happening was the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It was actually starting to see businesses being built with their IP. Yeah. So whether it was Bored Ape Vodka, or Bored Ape Food Truck, or a Bored Ape book being written by Neil Strauss, and all of these celebrities buying ape pictures and putting them on Twitter for $500,000. And then Andreessen Horowitz comes in and invests $400 million into Yuga Labs, the company behind the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And that for me was when the coin dropped. I was like, there's something more than just ape pictures here. Yeah. What's happening? And I dug into it. I did some research, and I started to understand that it's a new way to build IP. You're in the law field. You probably have a lot of friends who are managing IP out here in California. And, basically when you have IP, you can monetize it in a bunch of ways. You can license it, right? McDonald's has IP. They license it to their franchisees to build, new McDonald's, right? So I didn't know anything about the IP business, but I just saw that there's this thesis that the VCs are making that there's going to be a whole ecosystem around the Bored Apes. And the core competitive advantage of this IP is the community of people, including all the celebrities, all the influencers, because they're reaching hundreds of millions of people with this brand overnight, almost for free. I mean, they're paying to spread the IP. So it's genius. So I'm looking into that. Then I saw this other collection, the Lobby Lobsters, 10,000 lobster characters. They did something different. They sold their collection. They did $4 million in sales, donated it all to a lobbyist who was putting forth pro-crypto legislation in Congress. So that was another coin for me. It was like, coin, it's a pun, another coin. I was like, you can sell arts to fund a cause. Okay, you know? So this is all kind of percolating, right? Then I went to Midburn. I did my gratitude journaling experience. I met 80 people. I cried about it. I read all the gratitude. And I was like, I wish there was a way that I could just fund people to walk around with gratitude journals all day and just spread gratitude socially. Because this will heal humanity. More people prompting each other into gratitude all over the world. How could I create like an engine where money comes in, I pay it out to people who spread gratitude? That was my initial thought.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, well, what if we sold like 10,000 grateful lobsters, you know, or whatever the animal was as art, and then we used all those funds to then like spread gratitude. That was how it initially came to me. But then I started seeing the apes, and I was like, there might even be more than that. There might be this opportunity to really create a genuinely new character, like IP around a fictional character that symbolizes gratitude and actually build a business with gratitude as the core value with some animal as the core symbol. So yeah, I started looking at the different animals. I was looking for an alliterative combination. Grateful gorillas, too masculine, too much like the apes. Grateful gerbils, just a little too small. Grateful goats. Everyone, goats are pretty nice, but giraffes. Yeah. You know, grateful giraffes. You hear it, you smile, you think of a giraffe, you think of gratitude. Who doesn't like giraffes?
Nobody doesn't like giraffes.
Some people don't, but they need to leave this planet, okay? They've had enough time.
I've never met anybody that doesn't like a giraffe.
Exactly. So that's actually that's the true origin story. It was me trying to be creative and finding a way to sustainably scale gratitude. The giraffe came through. The URL was available. GratefulGiraffes.com was purchased. And 2.5 years later, here we are, you know, at a different point in the journey. But that's kind of how it all started.
And then I also like what you said on your website, which talks about how the giraffes, even though their head is high in the clouds, which is good because they're visionaries, they're grounded on the floor and they reach all the way down to the floor. So I think that you thought deeper more into the animal itself too, and got some correlations there, which was good.
Believe it or not, none of that was apparent at the beginning. It was literally just Grateful Giraffe sounds good. There's no giraffe NFT community. Let's do it. Fortunately, giraffes are the shit. Yeah. I mean, they just really are one of the best animals on earth. So we got really lucky that came together because yes, like you mentioned, head in the clouds, feet on the ground, largest heart of all land mammals. Maybe you didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
They pump the blood to the brain. So there's this whole symbolism around leading with your heart and being connected to your emotions. And giraffes are very peaceful. Yeah, you just don't really see a violent giraffe. You know, maybe they're playing around with their friends to like, you know, attract a mates or whatever. But if you attack a giraffe, they'll knock you out, right? Yeah. So it's like you're peaceful, but you're powerful. It's another just beautiful metaphor for the, you know, I would say that a lot of people, if they resonate with the symbolism of head in the clouds, feet on the ground, a higher perspective, a large heart, they're on a path. Yeah. They're on a path of enlightenment, you know, because a lot of people are so disconnected from the fact we're on this little blue orb hurtling through space in a solar system. 4 billion years it's been around. We just happen to poof one day wake up. That's spiritual in my definition. Just being aware. There's something crazy going on here that we take for granted. And then grounded, you can have all these realizations and be in the sky, but if you don't make anything happen, any change, it's not really that impactful. So giraffes are spiritual and grounded.
Yeah, how beautiful. And so Grateful Giraffes is a company where, so is it basically based off of the NFT, or you guys created an NFT and you sold the NFT, and is purchasing an NFT how you become a member?
Great question. So basically after I got buy-in from my two best friends, that they were along for the journey to create this movement and company. The first thing we did was go to our friends and family and begin selling them the NFTs. You know, we would sell 10 or 20 or 30, and they were kind of like backing us, supporting us by taking on some of the NFT inventory.
And then what was, when you were selling it and you were proposing this to your family, what were you proposing to them? What were you proposing that you were going to do with this money?
Right. Well, you know, the playbook was kind of analogous to the Bored Apes. The idea was create this collection of giraffe art, sell it online to a global network, have this global network start to communicate online, and then empower different community members to launch, you know, the Grateful Giraffe kombucha, not vodka, right? Or the Grateful Giraffe gratitude journal, or the Grateful Giraffe gratitude course, right? Or just, you know, find a way to kind of incubate all these different ideas that are unified by the Grateful Giraffe brand. And because there's a limited supply of these tokens, at some point there won't be any more for purchase, and you might be able to sell your extras or gift your extras.
Or you could license yours to somebody else.
License yours. There was all this, you know, amazing ideas in the air.
Yeah.
And we then commissioned an art campaign. So we tried to find our artists. We had 140 applications, 15 countries.
For those of you also that don't think this would work, I actually have some friends who they bought one of the Bored Apes. It was like a chef, and they sold a chef product, and they've sold a lot of product. And they said that a huge part of it was the branding itself. People recognize the Bored Apes brand. I mean, there's Bored Ape water.
Right.
So whether you want to accept this as something that is feasible, it is very likely and it's very believable. It's just like any personal brand. The Bored Apes were their own personal brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And each community member could activate their specific ape.
Yeah.
And they had like the rights basically to monetize it.
Yeah.
So we were thinking along those lines, like how do we create sort of this Yuga Labs, but for gratitude and consciousness and a healthier mind. So that's what I think a lot of people were buying into. And, you know, we had this art competition go out. We selected our winning artist. She helped us generate this crazy collection of we ended up doing 7,777 NFTs. That number represents spiritual enlightenment and peace of mind, which is definitely where we're at, you know, in terms of our values.
That's our goals.
You know, we decided to bring it into the physical by building a gratitude wall in the center of Tel Aviv. And so for 2 weeks, we had like a wellness festival in the center of the city. Thousands of people came up to the wall and wrote, physically wrote what they were grateful for, and tens of thousands walked by. So it was like my gratitude journal from the desert suddenly being here in the city in the wall form. And we got such amazing feedback that we were like, you know, we really need to spread this wall concept to other places. And at the time we were thinking, you know, our launch date is June 21st. It's in a couple months. Like, how do we get the word out in Miami and New York and LA and Austin? Well, we're not going to get permission to build walls in all these cities in the next month. But if we had a mobile wall that we could drive from city to city, then we could do pop-up gratitude wall activations. So I called my advisor. Turns out he's selling his white RV. Just put it on the market the day before I called him. I said, do you accept crypto? He said, yes. We bought the bus. A week later, we're in New York. My co-founder, my ex, and our graphic designer, we got it vinyl wrapped with giraffes. It said, what are you grateful for on both sides?
Yeah.
And we drove across country. So we stopped in 18 states. We had thousands of people riding on the bus. And we were preparing for this amazing public launch on June 21st, World Giraffe Day, sell at the NFT collection.
Amazing.
It was such a great concept.
Yeah.
Then, of course,
What year was this?
2022.
Got it.
Then, of course, as we're driving from, you know, New York to Miami, Ether goes from like 2,500 to like 1,500 in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
And all of our money was in Ether. So I'm like, it's going to come back, right? Okay, we go to LA. It's now at 1,000.
Yeah.
And in LA, we hosted our first ever evening of gratitude where we dropped like $8,000 on like this posh dinner for all these like celebrities, influencers, whatever.
Yeah.
Because we wanted them to buy into our NFT.
Yeah.
Whatever. And did not convert. Let's put it that way. And it was my first time ever doing, one of these fundraising dinners. So I was ill prepared. Plus, I had been driving a fucking RV, a 2005 Ford Schoolie across the country,
So you're a bit
nonstop
exhausted. Yeah.
for a month. with so much drama, and the price of gas has never been higher.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. You know, this feels like God has really slapped me around.
Yeah.
So eventually we get back to New York for NFT NYC. We launch our contract to the blockchain. But we decide, look, the market is not going to receive this collection. It's just not. There's no more speculators. There's no liquidity. It all dried up. Ether's $800. You know, it was like when we started in February, it was $3,500.
Yeah.
It went down like 80% since we started. And I also got wiped out personally because I had so much, you know, in the market and I wasn't managing it.
Yeah.
And the company got wiped out. So started as like, I have all of these savings and I have all this abundance and I am going to spread gratitude and sell NFTs. Within months, I was broke. The company was out of money. The NFTs were no longer marketable. And I was just kind of like having this dark night of the soul. Like, how did I get from so high to so low so quickly? You know, it was like really painful. Also going through a breakup, you know, at the same time. So it was like the whole universe was kind of like conspiring to fuck me, you know, all at the same time. And I had such, like I had challenges, but I had such fortune up until 31. And then I decided to do something positive and impactful for the world. At least that's what I thought I was doing. And snap. Like,
I'm sure you weren't feeling very grateful at that moment.
Well, that's an interesting point because that's actually how I interpret it retrospectively. God was basically saying, look, you know, you want to spread gratitude? Well, you need to actually be grateful when things aren't going well. True gratitude isn't, oh, I'm getting my latte at Starbucks. I'm so grateful. It's like, I'm in a shitstorm. Yet, I still see this as a gift. I still know this is for my highest growth and best self. Because a lot of pain just leads to growth, and growth leads to character, and character leads to resilience. So it wasn't easy, but I was able to stay the course. I was able to secure a little bit of funding. When I went back to Israel, my co-founder and I decided Israel's not the place to build this brand and community of conscious health and wellness oriented people. Not that they don't exist there, but comparing to LA, it's just a whole nother, you know, world. And so we left Israel after 8 and 14 years respectively. We had someone from our Burning Man camp drive the bus from my parents' house in Philadelphia all the way to the burn. We landed in Black Rock City, slept on the bus, drove it down to LA. And September 2022, we started Grateful Giraffes LA. With knowing nobody and just having a bus. That was what we came to LA with. So it was really painful and tragic and comedic and just unreal. It's still unreal. Like the fact that I'm still Grateful Giraffing around, you know, 2.5 years into it, after I was just like, we'll sell some art, we'll spread some gratitude, you know?
I have a thought and I have a question. So, you know, a lot of respect for one. We haven't even heard, you know, how it's going and where you're at now. But I understand what it's like being at like a dark place. When you're in that like depressive state, being grateful for anything is extremely difficult. And part of my morning practices every morning is I have daily mantras that I say to myself, and I have my daily gratitudes. And I remember just when I was going through a lot of depression, just being grateful for anything was difficult. And it would start with the simplest things. I'm like, I'm just grateful there's sunshine today, right? And at some point you like start getting into deeper things. You're grateful for who you are. You're grateful for your family. You're grateful for certain quality traits, things that you've done for yourself. And you start building upon this list. But for those of you who might be in a dark place, just understanding that starting with gratitude doesn't have to be anything extravagant in the beginning. Sometimes it's just, I'm grateful to breathe today. I'm grateful to be alive. And you can start there, and then you can build and build and build, and at some point it will be easier and easier. It's like anything in life. It's like a muscle, and you got to make sure it's trained. And the more you train it, the easier it becomes to tap into that emotion, to tap into that feeling. So
completely agree.
That was the first thing, and I think I forgot my second question. So you can continue.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so if it comes back to just interrupt. And just one more point about gratitude, which, you know, is definitely the area I've spent a lot of time in the last couple of years. The only other area I've spent more time in is probably giraffes. Like gratitude.
Oh, wait, I do remember the question.
Yes, perfect.
Why don't you go back to the VC when all this shit just went sideways? Why don't you just go back to your job?
Well, first of all, I left VC for a reason because I believed that my time here on Earth would be spent more appropriately or valuably in spreading gratitude.
Yeah.
So it's just like a calling. It's like it's time to step into your role on this planet. And being a VC, it's not that.
Yeah.
So I could have gone back and just ditched it, but I also had, pulled together funds from like friends and family, didn't want to let them down.
Yeah.
A lot of people in my family were also very, very skeptical. So it was also like a chip on my shoulder. Like,
you want to prove to them you can do it. Yeah.
And also to myself, I just felt like I can't let it go. I can't give up. I need to create something from this that makes it possible. So.
Well, fuck yeah, dude.
Didn't go back.
I'm glad you didn't go back. I mean, I'm just like...
I've looked back a lot, but I've never gone back.
It's just like, in that moment, a lot of people, I think, fall back to the easier solution. So I commend you for keeping your head down and moving forward, especially when you're in that darkest of places.
Yeah.
And also, too, with your reflection with God, I truly believe God, everything in your life, mistakes are just learning opportunities. Mm-hmm. No matter how dark they get, if you can find a way to pull yourself back together, even if it gets to the point where you have to borrow money from people or, ask for other people's help. Like, I think a lot of people, they just get to that low point and they just depend on themselves, and that's where it goes wrong. But if you can reach out for that help to others, people want to help. People want to see others succeed, especially when you're doing something commendable, like trying to bring gratitude.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be people, I'm sure that people have told you, what the hell are you talking about? You're absolutely ridiculous.
People.
Go get a job. I'm sure your parents maybe even have said this to you.
Many times.
Yeah, many times. And so it's just like, but the people that do resonate and they do believe in you, they will help. And there's so many people out there, just keep looking for help until you find it, and it will assist you when you're in the darkest of places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to get triggered when people would be like, so what do you do for work?
Yeah.
Or like, is this your full-time job?
Yeah.
And now I actually see it as compliments.
Yeah.
Because
it's not a job, it's a calling. It's different.
As well, but a lot of times when you're doing something new and innovative and interesting that doesn't fit into a box, people can't understand there's a business behind it, or there's a model behind it. So when people ask that question to me, it means that we're at this edge of creating a new type of model that has community, that has IP, that has health, that has wellness, that has experiences at the core. We'll get into the, a little bit more around the business, but to your point, I used to be threatened by that question, and now it actually makes me laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's exciting. I'm sure that there's been a multitude of different responses from people. I'm guessing more so just not really understanding, or now you probably, what do you tell people now when they ask you, what do you do for a living?
Depends on the person and the situation. To some people I say, I run a social club, we do amazing events, we have a membership community where people pay to join. We also, sell sponsorships against some of our events. And so we're kind of focused on building this community.
Yeah.
Other people, I'll talk a little bit more about Grateful Labs, where there's a company that owns the IP of the Grateful Giraffes. We've started out with a community, and then we're building a brand alongside the community. Over time, we're going to be launching products, services, other types of experiences that are all unified by this Grateful Giraffe brand. So we think there's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, that's waiting for us. And when you really look at the health and wellness market, generally, there's not like a clear market leader. There's, Goop, which has its own controversies. And
what is Goop?
It's Gwyneth Paltrow's, kind of lifestyle brand around health, wellness, fashion, whatever.
Okay.
But there's a lot of, claims, and not all of them are scientifically backed. And as a consumer, you kind of need help to navigate this $4.5 trillion growing to $6.5 trillion market.
Yeah.
So we see that as a big opportunity for the Grateful Giraffe brand, but it's not limited to that. I think that the business we're building is most similar to Virgin, right? Richard Branson had all this reputational capital, social capital, and he just infused it into, I don't even know what his first line of business was, but Virgin's become this conglomerate. And each division has a president, and they're running their own P&L, hospitality, transportation, food and beverage, music, whatever it is. They've established their brand and then licensed it across all these different verticals. So my vision is that the giraffe, becomes this icon, this symbol that resonates with an increasingly larger market. And then we have our music division. We have our education division. We have our venture capital division. We have our self-care division. And we're empowering members of this community who have those skills. For example, I don't know the law firm structure that you work at or you founded or whatever it is, but this is just an example, right? You could become the exclusive right holder of the Grateful Giraffe IP as it pertains to personal injury. And you own our personal injury business alongside myself, the community. We support you. You get a network of people who want to see your business succeed. So it's this new model where you have kind of like co-op mentality, community ownership mentality, where you can license the IP into any vertical that's just aligned with the values. We're not going to sell cigarettes. We're not going to sell gambling. We're not going to sell alcohol unless it's like very, very high quality tequila in very low amounts. But we'll probably do an alternative to alcohol. But that's like this bigger picture that we believe is coming. And as the community grows and as we curate the people to make sure that they align with the values of the brand, it just creates a platform that we will be able to launch any subsequent products. And we think it can be a very profitable enterprise. It's not just impact.
So how do you make money from all this? Is it just from selling a membership, or do you make a percentage like based off of them using the IP, I guess? Is it still an NFT thing? I'm just trying to understand that.
So good we circled back. For the first, year in LA, we basically said, if you're approved for membership, you buy an NFT, you own it, and you're a member for life. That's the exchange.
Are all your NFTs the same price?
So the NFTs when we first got to LA were, like $100 because Ether had gone down to 1,000. They were 0.1 ETH. Then we decided to disconnect the pricing from Ethereum because the value of being a Grateful Giraffe was way more than $100, but Ethereum was stuck at $100. So we're like, let's price it in dollars. So we did that for about a year, disconnected it from Ethereum, priced it in dollars. But then we started to understand that people are losing their keys. People don't know where they have the NFT. They're not using the NFT for anything. It adds cost. It adds maintenance. It adds all these negatives. And there's no upside. There's really no upside. So we, in September 2023, we basically sunset the NFT as membership. It's now just a lifetime membership. Check out with your credit card. You become a member if you're approved. That's one business, a lifetime membership. Today, it's a $600 cost to join. And then you get access to events every week, a monthly party, a bunch of amazing networking with amazing people, online fireside chats once a week. We can go into the benefits, whatever. But if you want the NFT as receipts, you can elect to receive it. It doesn't have any tangible benefit today. And I can tell you briefly why NFTs don't really have value and how they could have value. But there's a chicken and egg problem. So real quick, an NFT you can think of as an authentication technology. Yes, there's been all this art and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's proof that you are allowed in to something. Think of it as a passport.
And you own that specific GIF.
You own that.
The IP to that specific GIF.
As well. That's another layer on top. But that's very base layer. It's like if you hold the NFT in your wallet and there's this gate can be programmed to recognize your token and let you in physically or digitally. Most digitally at first. So let's say Amazon, just use a name everyone knows, wants to provision a discount to a certain class of NFT holders. Let's say they want to give all the Grateful Giraffe token holders 10% off at their store. Well, to actually integrate that is work, right? And there's not many people using NFTs. So it's not worth the efforts for Amazon to add NFT authentication to their sign-in, right? Right now you have a username and password. Your wallet and your token are the username and password. It's just a different form factor for username and password. So unless there's this very simple, very easy way for every web service provider to then make it easy to sign in with your NFT, they won't do it because there's not enough people. And for the user, unless there's tons of benefits all over the web, that they would get from using their wallet and their NFTs also won't use it.
Yeah.
So you have this chicken and egg. If it becomes very easy to integrate NFT sign-on, then the Grateful Giraffes, all of our partners, all of the brands, all of the products, all of the websites, all the services, we'll just go and negotiate one by one. Hey, 20% off for giraffes, 25% off for giraffes. They plug that into their system, and then anyone with this token, boom, automatically applied at checkout. It's actually a great product. Think of it as like a wellness token across the internet that can also be used to allow you through VIP sections in reality. It's just missing infrastructure. If the infrastructure is there and enough people are fluent and enough companies are using it as sign-on, our NFTs can be worth a ton. It's just right now, they're not, and no one's using them. It's not worth the trouble. So we sunset the NFTs. They might have a resurrection, but it's not.
So when you say
clear.
sunset them, when people become a member, they don't get one at this
They can
moment?
elect to receive it.
They can elect to
It's just
receive it.
not a requirement.
Okay.
Most people do not elect.
Okay. Got it. And then are you only going to be giving out 7,777 memberships?
Well, we have, that finite number of NFTs, but as we've disconnected the NFT from membership, it's unclear that we need to artificially cap
Okay.
this community, especially because it's a real life community
Yeah.
that meets in person.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably more than 7,777 Grateful Giraffe
Yeah.
people out
People
there.
in the world. And you can always make more NFTs later if you
As well.
wanted to. Would that, just from my understanding, would
Yeah.
devalue the value of your NFTs?
Unclear. Like
Unclear.
If you sell out collection one,
Yeah.
and there's this vibrant community, then
They can be worth more.
people want to buy,
Yeah.
into an existing network,
Yeah.
as opposed to something from scratch.
Okay, got it. And so $600, you become a member, you can elect to have the NFT.
Yeah.
And then being a part of this, I was looking on your site, there's different types of events, there's meetups. What are some of the types of events and meetups that you guys have within the Grateful Giraffe world?
So there's two types of events right now. One are open, meaning members and their friends. And one is closed, which means it's just for the members.
Yeah.
The members only events are typically more intimate, and they range from a hike, an evening of gratitude, which is a dinner party that we kind of invented and
Okay.
have been working with for a couple years. We've done vision boarding, we've done yoga, breathwork, sound healing, we've done brunches and pool activations and a lot of different just group activities. So those are really for the members. And then the members and friends, we've done some happy hours. We always try to infuse gratitude into the experience. So even if it's a brunch, we'll do a meditation on gratitude.
Okay.
If it's a dinner, we'll do a group sharing circle where people can share stories of gratitude.
Okay.
If it's a party, maybe we'll have a gratitude wall. So
Yeah.
those are kind of the two types of events we offer. And for members, they, get 70% off at our parties. These are non-alcoholic parties, which is why I made that comment about the tequila. But, it's really a Burning Man inspired party where there's always art, there's always music, there's always wellness, there's always kind of this co-creation vibe. And a lot of the magic actually comes from giraffes
Yeah.
who fire spin, DJ,
Yeah.
perform, volunteer, massage, whatever,
Yeah.
So it's like the magic of co-creation. Yeah.
Amazing. How many members do you guys have in the Giraffes now?
We're 800 members globally,
Oh, amazing.
and about half of them are in Los Angeles.
Okay, fantastic. And at this point, are people just reaching out to you organically, or how does it work? Or do you reach out to people and ask them to be members, or how does that happen?
I would say we've been experimenting with inbound versus outbound. I think that while we do receive a fair bit of applications online, the best source is really through the existing community.
Yeah.
They're getting the value, so they can testify to its benefits, and then they'll kind of refer people in.
Got it.
Also, if we meet someone who we feel like is a Grateful Giraffe, we'll inspire them and invite them come to an event, meet some of the community.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like, come to an event. If you like the people and you're a good fit, you want in.
Yeah.
If you don't like the people, which I find it hard if you don't like the Grateful Giraffe people because they're amazing people, then you're probably not a fit. It's okay.
Yeah. This means they need to work on themselves a bit more.
We all do, but yes.
At some point, they'll come back to gratitude.
Right, exactly. So I think, for us, it's It's very important we grow with integrity. We interview every person. Even if we like them, we want to get to know them. We're not in a rush to grow the community like rapidly. It's more in integrity, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what you feel
Yeah.
when you come to an event.
Is the membership $600 a year or just one
Once.
time? That's it. Okay. And then when people attend events, you said they get discounts for like parties and different things. Okay, awesome. So the hope is that people will continue coming to it and wanting to also be part of the community, not just signing up for that one time and then never participating again.
Correct. And we've gotten a lot of, interesting feedback around this model because it's very rare. You don't have many lifetime membership communities.
Yeah, I was going to say that's super interesting because like anything in life, to keep the revenue and to keep the company growing, usually there has to be some repeat thing. Do you think at some point that might change?
So our thesis from the beginning has been grow in a way that's able to keep the lights on. And then once you reach critical mass, introduce a product that the community loves, is aligned with, and that becomes where we generate resources versus from the community. It's with the community. We also basically run this events business that our larger events, we charge ticket prices. They're big. We have sponsors. So we're actually, we're basically a break-even company at this point from the combination of the one-time membership fee, the ticket sales at our events, and the sponsorships from brands that want, to be featured. And I think the next phase is really like, how do we take what we've built and how do we assemble it in an intelligent way that really allows, more abundance and wealth to be created? It's all about value. Are you creating value? Okay, then you can keep a piece of it. So how do we take this incredible group of people and really empower and activate them in a way where they're able to create more value with us than they would be able to on their own?
Yeah.
And then we share in the value that's being created.
Who are the three most amazing giraffes? I know I don't want to talk down on any other giraffes, but who are the three most amazing giraffes that you have met in your opinion?
I wouldn't say most amazing because I'm not playing favorites.
Yeah,
but I'll
not
say
trying to play
three
favorites,
amazing.
but just who are the three that I guess stand out to you the most?
Well, one that joined recently is, I mentioned her briefly, Sonja Lyubomirsky. She's one of the leading happiness researchers in the world.
Oh, wow.
And she's just really informed.
What does it mean to be a happiness researcher?
So, that's basically testing different practices, interventions in a clinical way with like a randomized controlled double-blind study where you give certain people this intervention, you give these people placebo, you measure happiness levels, Some can be qualitative, like interview style, but she's actually getting into like brain and blood and like biomarkers of happiness to really understand like what moves the needle. So
how cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And she's
also
also
a neurologist technically, or does she have a
no,
degree in
she's
that?
just
She's more a data person.
I think she was a psychologist.
Okay.
I have to double check. You guys can look that up, but
yeah,
she's educated me about gratitude, and even like we kind of were under this impression that social gratitude is the ultimate form of gratitude. If I appreciate you and you appreciate me, we're good.
Yeah.
We're golden. The serotonin starts to flow.
Yeah.
But she actually makes the claim that it's not about just if it's social or if it's verbal or if it's written. It's all about depth.
Yeah.
How deep into the gratitude can you go? Because if you write a gratitude list, it's like 15 shallow things. But if you write one gratitude letter to one person and you spend 10 minutes like actually going deep into that process, the impact of that deep gratitude, completely different benefit than just 15 like listed things.
Okay.
Again, that like reoriented me towards.
And you're saying this is when it's personally directed towards yourself, or
No,
you're just saying
anyone.
and any type of gratitude practice.
Depth over breadth.
That's
the
breadth.
key. If you can go deep on one person versus shallow on 15 things, always go for the depth. That's her research, basically.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I should change my practice. Instead of being grateful for, because I usually list out like 10, 20 things every morning, I'm wondering if I should elaborate on one thing in the details about why I love and treasure that one thing. And it probably triggers certain responses within the brain, definitely a specific emotional response.
Right.
You probably are going to be releasing certain types of chemicals and feelings, and then you can start your day on that mood. Because sometimes just even talking about this, when I list the list, I feel good and it feels great to start with gratitudes. But I remember I was at dinner with my girlfriend and we were listing the things we liked about each other. And she was like more like, she wasn't saying it in like a needing more thing, but she's like, I want a deeper answer. I don't want a shallow answer. And like, as you go deeper and deeper, you just feel certain things that expand upon that emotion.
Right.
So I'm going to try this tomorrow. I'll text you and I'll let you know if I feel any different, but I'm sure that I will. Just even talking about it, I can feel the emotions that might arise by delving deeper into a gratitude practice that would focus on what are the things that I love about this? What am I grateful for about my parents? Not that I'm grateful about my parents, but what are the specific things that I love about them, that they've done for me, that they've, helped to raise me, the things they've taught me, instead of just being like, I'm grateful for my parents.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, just even having this conversation, I can feel myself getting more emotional from those thoughts. So yeah, I'm going to do that in the mornings and try that out.
What's your girlfriend's name?
Her name's Carly.
Carly. So why don't we just not wait? Let's just take advantage of this container that's just been opened. I'd love to hear a little bit more about Carly and what you appreciate about her.
Okay. What I'm grateful for about Carly is that she is very quirky and she's very sweet. I'm allowed to be playful, make weird noises, and just be a little kid when I'm around her. Mm-hmm. It's the little things, like whenever I'm putting on a jacket, she immediately reaches over and just starts helping me put it on. Or if I'm like, my hands are full, she'll come and open the door for me. Or, like in relationships in the past, it was like, oh, you took out the trash this time, I took out the trash this time. It's like, no, the trash is full, just take out the trash. Or, if this needs to be done like in the morning, instead of like being like, oh, it's your responsibility to do it, it's just helping in that relationship. And I like how she always gets along with all my friends, and she is very much into working out, which helps me stay into working out. And so we motivate each other that way. And yeah, I mean, these are just some of the things, but yeah, I mean, I can definitely feel it's a completely different practice going deeper with that individual. Even if it's not an individual, like when you say it, I think about even like when you brought up the sun. There's probably about a million things that I could think of when it comes to the sun,
right,
and what I'm grateful for with the sun, and just really feeling the true depth of what you appreciate about the sun. Its vibrance, the fact that it brings life to plants, that it brings life to myself, that my skin feels better. I just am more awake when I'm in the sun, that it's something that we couldn't survive without, right? It's beautiful color, and it's also its beauty, but also its danger, right? And that's also provides a dichotomy of it,
right,
and the balance of it all. So yeah, you're right. This is something.
I feel the solar energy.
Yeah, right? You feel the solar
through.
energy, yeah. So yeah, these are really good reflections. And also too, just I appreciate you having me here at this time in my life, because I tend to be one of those people that always finds the negative, just because
you're a lawyer.
I'm a lawyer. I mean, being a lawyer, but even as a kid growing up, I mean, maybe that's also part of the reason why I became a good lawyer, right? Yeah, like it's like whenever people tell me stuff, I'm immediately finding the things that are wrong with what I say, and it's not from a place. I want to say it's not from a place of negativity. A lot of times, it's like, actually, I want to help.
Right.
I'm like trying to make sure that they're seeing the things that they're blindsided by, and that's my job, is looking from all the angles, not just from one.
Right.
But a lot of times too, I find the negatives in my life instead of the gratitudes and the things that are positive, and it's like the energetics around certain things, how you view things and how you speak about things and how you reflect things has a huge effect on what's going to be brought to you. And so I know I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that have been trying to help me like get my energetics around specific things in a more positive way. And it's a day by day practice. And so like anything in life, just like at the moment you put that thing in the wall, everything shows up exactly at your life at the exact moment, exact time that you need it on your journey. And so it's understanding the gift that's being offered to you, and whether you want to be receptive to it, whether you want to accept it, whether you want to make a change, or if you're just going to ignore it and push it along. So you coming here with these gratitude practices, and also even with the last podcast I did was with Katie's friend, Morgan Scheidler. I don't know if you met her,
no, not yet.
But hers was about hustle and play. It's to remember to give myself an opportunity to play And it's not just about like work all the time, but to remember that I need to give myself some time to enjoy the things that make me happy too, because that was something I was struggling with at that moment also. And I've been much gentler with myself since. And so it's just each little thing always shows up exactly when you need it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel a difference here.
Yeah.
Just now, even just hearing you share, your gratitude for Carly and the sun, like there's a different energy in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very different.
That's good. And
Yeah.
that's part of my mission is just to
Yeah.
help people, connect to this.
I'm glad you said what you said, because I think having my list, there's also nothing wrong with that, because I feel like, I don't know if it sounds weird, but when you just say you're grateful for someone, you hope that it kind of tickles them. Like you ever see like in cartoons where like they like sneeze or like they kind of like smile because they think somebody's like talking or thinking about them, whatever it is. So I like to send out little pings to some of my best friends sometimes that I haven't seen in forever. So I think I'm going to do the list and then dive deep on one thing or one person every day.
I love that.
Yeah. So a combination of both. Doesn't have to be one or the other. You can always add more. Yeah. That's cool.
So Sonja is the first woman who comes to mind. The second is, her name is Minling.
Minling.
Chang, I think it's pronounced.
Minling Chang.
And she, she joined over a year ago. And I saw this unique opportunity that the community is filled with so many knowledgeable people. How do we interview them, record that knowledge, and make it accessible to members? Fireside chat with a Q&A. So I did 6 or 7 of these, just trying to test it out. And Minling came to me. She's like, I love this. How can I help?
So it's a podcast.
Yeah, we do an online podcast once a week that's live, and people from the community.
Sorry, I didn't mean to call it something that it's also not.
But we call it a fireside chat, but we record it, upload it to YouTube. It's effectively a podcast, not with the quality that you have here, but
it's the same idea.
It's still knowledge that we're trying to spread.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So Minling came, she's like, how can I support? I said, well, why don't you just coordinate between the speakers and the show? And after 3 or 4, that she was on, I was like, well, why don't you just host? So for the last 3 or 4 months, she's literally been coordinating all the guests and hosting every week.
Are all the guests giraffes?
Almost all.
Okay.
Almost all. We have a few non-giraffes that have come on as well. And it's just incredible. It's really the first, I would say, instance where we've empowered someone from the community to take a leadership role. And she's not, we're granting her shares, but she didn't do it because it was a job listing.
She loved it.
She's like, I want to give to this community, And I also love this format. She didn't say, hey, I want to lead the podcast. She just gave. And I saw, look, take it.
Yeah.
She's been running with it.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic.
No, this is a good life lesson for anybody that's listening. This is something that I can even reflect. So if you own a company, a lot of times I have a random thing that I need help with. I hate assigning it to anyone. I literally will be in the meeting. Who would like to do this? And who can help me with it? Most of the time, if it's something that doesn't suck, if it's something that somebody enjoys and they're like, yeah, I don't mind doing that. I'll actually be happy to do that for you.
Yeah.
It's always so much better than telling someone to do something that they really don't love to do. And making sure you're just letting people do the things that are their strengths and the things that they enjoy and the things that make them happy. They're always going to do 100 times better than somebody who's being forced to do it or even paid to do it.
Right.
Money and those things only gets you so far, but when there's a genuine passion behind it, that's how things flourish.
Yeah.
It's not just do it for the sake of doing it. Everybody can feel the difference. When somebody truly enjoys and is passionate behind something, it takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So the fireside chats, I'm definitely...
And Minling.
Yeah, Minling. Okay.
And then I think the last one that comes to mind, his name is Shervin. I also don't know how to pronounce his last name because it's a long Persian name. But
nice.
It's Peggambari or something.
Shervin from San Diego, the guy that has Symbiotica?
No. Different
got
Shervin.
it. A different Shervin. I was like, shit.
A lot of Shervins out here.
Yeah.
But Shervin has just been kind of like this just silent partner this whole past year and a half, where he joined and then every event, large event, he's supported in some way, whether it's just picking us up and taking a bunch of logistical stuff to the venue, staying there late to help tear down, just been a team player in every sense of the word, and has just made our lives significant, materially better just by being around us. And even my sister's landing, he's like, I'll I'll come with you to the airport. I'll drive you to pick her up. Just like
Yeah.
a good human that's just been involved. And now we're giving him more leadership opportunities to actually run our next party. He's been like, given that title. He's like event lead basically. So it's really, it's been beautiful. There's so many amazing people in the community. Yeah. Those are just 3 that I initially thought of, but I would say every giraffe is truly special.
Yeah. And if we had 10 hours, I'm sure we could go through each of them and their specialties. And I'm sorry that I don't mean to exclude any giraffes.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. But okay, fantastic. Is there anything that people can do to support the giraffes other than becoming a member?
So really our vision is that the giraffe becomes expressed across a lot of different channels and a lot of different forms, whether this is giraffe print fashion, whether this is music that has positive messages, whether it's a musical that has giraffes in it, whether it's a film that's animated that has a giraffe family telling the story of gratitude, whether it's a giraffe avatar that's a newscaster and there's a whole show about positive things that's led by a giraffe. Yeah. So I would really invite anyone who's listening to this who wants to spread gratitude globally, who likes giraffes, ideally who wants to be part of this community, but not necessarily to come to me and say, hey, I know this fabric manufacturer. Yeah. I can get you a great price, high quality fabric. We're going to help you create your first giraffe sweater line, right? Or I know this amazing jewelry designer. We're going to help you create your first, because ultimately that's how this thing scales. Hey, I want to create an oracle deck with giraffes on it. Okay, come to us. Yeah. We'll license you the IP. We'll support you. We'll create a model where everyone wins. This is what I'm trying to manifest. Just people across all these different verticals that have domain expertise, have some unique knowledge, but want to take this brand and help bring it and scale it. So that's really what I'm calling in.
Okay. In a short version, I know we've kind of talked broad spectrum on everything. How would you describe, or what would you describe the Grateful Giraffe brand as?
First, I'll describe what a Grateful Giraffe community member is. That's the foundation. First, it's someone who is connected to gratitude and who believes it's an importance in helping humanity thrive. 2, it's someone who has their head in the clouds, feet on the ground, someone who's connected to their emotions and their heart, higher perspective, peaceful yet powerful. Yeah. These are the people that we're magnetizing and nurturing. Yeah. When it comes to the brand, it's similar values. Gratitude is obviously the core value, and we want to help people feel their best and be their best, right? So any product or service or experience that can help people feel healthier and happier is part of our brand ecosystem. I think that's, in a very concise way how I would describe it.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I think at this point, what I would like to do is we can wrap things up. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our guests? If not, what I would love to do is I would love to tell them how you can put them in contact with you and how they can potentially become a member or apply for membership. And then if there's some sort of synergy there, potentially help to grow your community and help to teach the world to be more grateful.
So the last thing I'll share before all of the important contact info is we really sit at a very important point in our history as a species. The amount of change and transition and acceleration technology that's happening is unprecedented, truly. And what we're missing right now is a story that unites us all. A great myth, as some will call it. People are leaving religion. People are more divided politically than ever before. So we're kind of being diffused away from each other. And we're forgetting that we're one. We are one. One planet, one species, one energy. Yeah. So I really am here doing this work because I believe gratitude can be a great myth that unites us all, that brings us all back to existence, our breath, our bodies, each other, the love that we have to give to one another. So this is a call to action for anyone who's listening. Whatever you can do to bring more gratitude into your life, whatever you can do to bring more appreciation into the lives of others, it's mathematical. If enough people on this planet are in this practice, are in this frequency, are in appreciation of what's happening, it eventually reaches a tipping point. We take better care of each other. We take better care of the planet. We take better care of ourselves. Gratitude is truly this foundational pillar that if we can build it together, it will change our future, you know, for the best.
Yeah.
So this is the call to action. Get more connected to this practice. Help other people get more connected to this practice. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
It's free to everyone. Just bring gratitude to the world. That's what we're here to do. And if you want to get more involved in our specific mission and the community, gratefulgiraffes.com.
You can tell it to the
GRATEFUL, giraffes.com. Our Instagram, Grateful Giraffes.
Okay.
Personally, my email is max@gratefulgiraffes.com. So if someone has, you know, an idea or wants to connect, I'm happy to receive email. I'm also the Max Marine on Instagram. So feel free to connect with me there.
Cool.
And yeah, to apply, you can also just go to our website. So
cool. And then I guess I'll ask you one last question.
Yeah.
What is the number one piece of advice you would give to a friend?
Anyone can be grateful. It takes community to stay grateful.
All right. We're going to be chiming out. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Max. Your story was absolutely amazing, and you've been on a wild journey. I am so proud of you for not giving up and to continuing down that journey, because you've created a community now where you've brought together 800 amazing individuals, which I'm sure will grow into thousands over time. And as that community grows, you're going to be infecting each other with your gratitude and infecting all
gratitude infection.
It's a gratitude
It's a good infection. It's a good virus.
Infection. It's a virus you want.
Exactly.
And you're just going to be spreading it throughout the world. It's a very admirable thing that you've brought upon yourself, and I'm proud of you, and just keep going on that journey, dude. I'm excited to see it go.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, my brother.
Appreciate the opportunity.
We're chiming out. Thanks everybody for listening in.